This is the place where we tell you everything you need to know, every Big Ten team, every Big Ten game, and then we go on the record with our Pigskin Picks. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Shemon, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hit that free subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss a single episode. And you can also share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten. That helps us out too. And you can hype YouTube videos. That'd be cool if you did that, of course. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So we're going to look at every game. Obviously, there's no bigger game in the Big Ten than USC and Oregon. We'll talk about that as well, but we'll cover everybody here. And then we'll have our bold, fearless Pigskin Picks as well. So let's start it. It's week 13. Can you believe it? I really can't. I really can't believe we're week 13 already. I mean, rivalry week is next week. Rutgers is at #1, Ohio State. Ohio State 10-0. That is the noon game on Fox. Ohio State, I hope you enjoyed that primetime game under the lights last week. Now you're back onto the noon slot on Fox. Big question here, though. Two big questions here. The health status of wide receivers Carnell, Tate, and Jeremiah Smith. Tate has been out since he tweaked an ankle in warmups before the Purdue game, and Jeremiah Smith was limited to just 22 snaps of the UCLA game with a quote-unquote nagging injury. All right, even quarterback Julian Sain's left ankle needed some attention under the medical tent during the UCLA game, but Sain said afterward he was fine, no problem there. But Ryan Day, very tight-lipped about his receivers. Ryan Day is always tight-lipped about injuries. I don't know if it's an advantage or privacy or somewhere in between, but it's to be expected. Big picture here. Sorry, Rutgers. I know you never want to overlook an opponent because of a look-ahead game, but Michigan's coming up next. All right, so Ohio State's going to be overlooking Rutgers. There's no question about it. Now, this may be an exercise in abundance of caution here, but they need to get these wide receivers ready for the Michigan game. Meanwhile, Rutgers, Greg Schiano, remember, he was an assistant coach with the Buckeyes for a while in between his Rutgers gigs and his run at the NFL with the Buccaneers. Rutgers offense, led by quarterback Ethan Kaliakmanis, he's not had any problems putting points on the scoreboard this season, although Oregon did a pretty good job of shutting him down, but that's about it. And they haven't faced a defense like Ohio State's yet, so could be a tough day. We'll look at this one with our Pigskin Picks in just a little bit. Meanwhile, Minnesota is at Northwestern at Wrigley Field. That's at 12 noon Eastern on the Big Ten Network. Bottom line, PJ Flex Gophers, they beat the teams they're supposed to, and they're usually close one-score games. They had a 7-point win against Purdue, although a pretty easy win against Nebraska. That was an exception. They needed overtime to beat Michigan State. You kind of get my point here. Again, against good teams, it's not been pretty. Ohio State beat Minnesota by 39. Iowa beat them by 38. Oregon just beat them last Friday by 29. On the other hand, Northwestern, they're not at that level of the good, really elite teams that can go beat Minnesota by 39 points, but they are solid. They're good. And defensively, they will hit you in the mouth. Northwestern is not to be taken lightly. And they just went toe-to-toe with Michigan last weekend and forced the Wolverines into 5 turnovers, only to lose on a walk-off field goal. So they were hanging right in there. Northwestern needs a win either this week against Minnesota or next week against Illinois to become bowl eligible for the second time in 3 years under David Braun. I'm sure they would just as soon take care of that this weekend. Expect a lot of handoffs in this game. Darius Taylor and Ejiofor Ifeanyi for Minnesota and Caleb Komolafe for the Wildcats. All good running backs. All are going to get a lot of action in this game. Michigan State is at number 21 Iowa, or formerly number 21 Iowa. 3:30 on FS1. And that's Eastern time. And it feels like the sun is setting a little bit on the 2-season tenure for Spartans head coach Jonathan Smith. I mean, they're still looking for their first Big Ten conference win of the season. Maybe the school will take the route of Wisconsin and Maryland and reinvest in the program instead of firing football coaches. Those two programs have already announced their coaches will be back. Michigan State's offensive line has been horrible. They've given up 35 sacks this year. Aiden Childs has been on a walking boot. His replacement, Alessio Milivojevic, has been banged up since the Penn State game. He was sacked 5 times. Redshirt freshman, though, looks promising, though. When he has time, he could play. Meanwhile, a series of near misses for Iowa. Is a good Iowa football team. They're this close to being a great Iowa football team. And Kirk Ferentz, another solid job this year, but their 4 losses to Iowa State, Indiana, Oregon, UCLA, they've been by a combined 15 points. That's it. If they have just won 2 of those close games, we'd be talking about them in the college football playoffs, I think. Even offensive coordinator Tim Lester, he's doing un-Iowa-like things lately, running their version of Philly special against USC last week in the rain, no less, with a double reverse / touchdown throw to their quarterback, Mark Gronowski. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was Iowa. They don't do those things. Well, they did. They were successful. It's their last home game, so I wonder if we'll see some more special plays like that in front of the fans at Kinnick Stadium. Michigan Wolverines taking on Maryland. 4 p.m. Eastern time on the Big Ten Network. You'll see a nice quarterback matchup here, freshman quarterbacks. Bryce Underwood for Michigan, Malik Washington for Maryland. I, at one time, thought this was a 2-man race for the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. Early on, I would have given it to Malik Washington. He came out screaming. And now Maryland has struggled, and slowly but surely, Bryce Underwood is getting better. I don't know if some people think he's not where he should be at this point, but perhaps one of these two will win the Big Ten Freshman of the Year award. Maybe the winner of this game will get that award. Michigan's coming off a game where they turned the ball over 5 times against Northwestern at Wrigley Field. They needed the walk-off field goal by Dominic Zavada to win the game. But when they did, okay, they won. That's what you got to do. You're going to have tough days out there. Because I have always contended that if Michigan beats Maryland, and if Michigan beats number 1 Ohio State next week, Michigan will be 10-2 with a win against the number 1 team in the country. They're already ranked. They're going to the playoffs. Michigan will go to the playoffs if they run the table with Maryland and Ohio State. Now, it's a tall ask, but I'm on the record saying that. Michigan's got some problems. Running back Justice Haynes, he continues to be out, and he will be out for the remainder of the regular season at least. Running back Jordan Marshall has done a great job taking more runs. Hurt his shoulder there. Landed on his shoulder in the 4th quarter of the Northwestern game. He was in a lot of pain. Freshman Jasper Parker, sophomore walk-on Bryson Kutzel are the running backs now at Michigan. Look, they're fine, but this could be a problem. This could be because they're not Jordan Marshall or Justice Haynes. I'll tell you that. And Michigan also has to avoid looking ahead to Ohio State. So I don't know how this game's going to go. I'll tell you in a minute with our Pigskin Picks. I'm going to have to go on the record because we're bold and fearless, remember? Look, Maryland looked promising at the beginning of the year, jumping out to a 4-0 start. They never trailed in those 4 games, but they've lost 6 straight since then. And the real thing, the Michigan's Bryce Underwood will have to be ready for. The Terps secondary is incredible. They got 18 interceptions this season. That is it's first of the Big Ten. It's incredible. Great secondary. And I believe they have an interception in 8 straight games, and they have 25 pass breakups as well. So I think this game could get interesting. What about you? Hit me up in the comment section. Be sure to hit that free subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss a single episode, and you can share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten. That would be great. Also, don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. All right, we're still have more games to go. We talk about every team, every game. It's what we do. here on this podcast on Fridays, and then we cap it off in our final segment with our Pigskin Picks. But obviously, we haven't talked about the big game yet. That's the one, USC at Oregon. We'll talk about that and the night games. We got a lot to do. We'll tell you about our plans to go live on the weekend. All that's coming up in a minute here on Locked On Big Ten. All right. You want to go to a game? You need a ticket. You need Game Time. Download the Game Time app. College football. These are important games this week. If you want to go, did you know you can get to a college football game for as little as $25 with Game Time? That's right. Be part of the tailgates. Be part of the rivalries. Be part of the energy. Being there live instead of watching on TV. I love it that we talk about it all the time, but you can go there with a ticket at Game Time. And buying a ticket through Game Time is easy breezy. It's no hassle. No surprise prices to check out. You're good to go. Just a couple of taps, amazing deals, and you're good to go with Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Thanks for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten and making us your first listen each and every day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Appreciate that, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to hit that free subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We're here every day, and we go live on Saturdays. Plus, if you could share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, that would be great. Your team every day. Check out our website, talkbig10.com as well. All right, let's get to it. Every team, every game. That's what we do here on Fridays going into the weekend. We got USC taking on Oregon. Oregon now number 7, USC 15th in the country. USC 8-2, Oregon 9-1. This is a 3:30 Eastern on CBS, 12:30 Pacific. Again, we will go live immediately after this game for a real raw post-game reaction right here on Locked On Big Ten. So make an appointment to join us as soon as the game is over, and then the coach does the on-the-field interview. Boom, that's when we go. And I get your real live time comments as well. That's what makes this fun. So we get a real gauge on the reaction when we do this. Oregon's home game here against USC is huge for both schools. I think the winner is going to the playoffs and the loser is out. There may be a scenario where Oregon loses a close game and they can still stay ranked high enough to make playoffs. Maybe, but we're going to delay that thought process until next week. If USC loses, they'll be out. They'll be a 3-loss team. I don't think they'll get in the playoffs. So this is a critically important game. Let's start with Oregon, talking about this one. So Oregon's won 4 in a row ever since that home loss to Indiana. Last week, Dante Moore completed 27 of 30 passes, threw for a career-high 306 yards in a blowout win over Minnesota last week on a Friday night. What was amazing about that, not only his 90% completion rate, which was phenomenal, but the fact that he did it with a thinned-out receiver room. They've had some injuries they've had to deal with. Freshman standout, true freshman standout. Decorian Moore was out versus Minnesota, missed the Iowa game with a knee. Gary Bryant Jr. was injured in the Iowa game. Good to see Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end, back into the lineup. He was actually questionable, but he made it back into the lineup. Caught 8 passes for 96 yards and a touchdown. But, and again, they got these young guys and they're deep and everybody steps up, but they can always rely on their running game. Probably the deepest running back room, maybe in the country, certainly the Big Ten. And I know some people would argue, but I don't think so. I think they're the best. Noah Whittington, you've got Jordan Davison, De'Ara Hill Jr., all of them very deep running backs room. And their running game is top 10 in the country. They average 237 yards per game. They're tied for second in the Big Ten with 26 rushing touchdowns. By the way, USC and Washington are the others that have 26 rushing touchdowns. But I think the thing that gets overlooked here is the Ducks' defense. Number 3 defense in FBS and number 1 passing defense. Passing is the skill that USC has here. But the Ducks are hurting on the defensive side of the ball. Lots of injuries. We did a podcast on this the other day. You go back for a second, listen. A lot of injuries going into this game. It's a shame because it's so important. But inside linebacker Devon Jackson and defensive tackle Tione Gray, they sat out the Minnesota game. They were listed as questionable. So I have a theory there. They're like, all right, maybe we don't need you for that. Let's get you rested. All of our chips are on the table for this game. So Oregon's defense is looking to be hopefully at full strength. Meanwhile, USC is on a hot streak of their own. 3 straight wins since that loss to Notre Dame. They moved up 2 spots in this week's poll to number 15. And so, yeah, number 15 versus number 7. Something's going to give. Something's got to happen. The offense for USC is number 6 in FBS and number 1 in the Big Ten. They're led by quarterback Jayden Maiava, and this offense averages almost 500 yards a game, 489 to be precise. So they can put up some numbers. They could be going against that Oregon defense. Something's going to give there. Just a little sidebar for you Trojans fans. Waymon Jordan, a running back who's been out for several weeks, had some surgery. He was back on the practice field this week. He's got pads on. He's slowly working his way back, and he will not play this weekend, though. They're also missing Eli Sanders. King Miller has been one of the most amazing stories in the Big Ten this year. He is the walk-on freshman running back that has stepped up. He gets like 100 yards every time he plays. In 5 games, 567, 3 touchdowns, averages 6.4 yards a carry. He's been phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. There were some injuries against Iowa in the rain this past week. Left tackle Elijah Page, defensive back Kamari Ramsey, that's big, and free safety Bishop Fitzgerald all worked their way back into practice a little bit this week. And Lincoln Riley would only say, we'll see at the very, very end of the week. Today, we'll get a better idea of their playing status. But nobody had a season ender or anything like that. This game is going to come down to the Ducks secondary. Can they contain Maiava? They might. And this Oregon team has only let up more than 200 yards passing one time all year, and that was when Fernando Mendoza did it for Indiana, but he only hit 215. So we'll see. This is an old Pac-12 rivalry game now under the umbrella of the Big Ten. USC leads the overall series 38-23-2, but the Ducks have won 7 of their last 9 and 3 straight. If they win Saturday, that will be 4 straight in this series. They've never done that. They've never beaten USC 4 times like that. All right. Love your thoughts on this game, too. We'll make our pick in a minute on this. Nebraska is at Penn State. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC, 4 o'clock Pacific. Of course, Nebraska is coming off the hard-fought win at UCLA. They are without Dylan Raiola, their quarterback who broke his leg a few weeks ago. Freshman quarterback TJ Lateef seems to show some promise, I think, here. He's going to lead the Huskers the rest of the way and into bowl season. They're bowl eligible, so they're good to go. Little sidebar. We did another podcast. Check it out on our Locked On Big Ten page. Dylan Raiola's brother, his younger brother, Dayton Raiola, he decommitted. He was coming to Nebraska. He decommitted this week and has reopened his recruitment. He's a 3-star 2 weeks from signing day. And by the way, the Huskers only have 9 commits. That's a little weird. Of course, Matt Rule is coaching against his former team. He played for Penn State. There was some talk that maybe the day that James Franklin got fired, that Matt Rule might want that job. Then Nebraska signed him to a contract extension and increased his buyout. So we'll see if any conversations are happening this week. Meanwhile, you know the story for Penn State. Absolute disaster, like Titanic disaster. Preseason number 2, playoff expectations. James Franklin got fired. Drew Aller got injured. Penn State season in the toilet. They lost 6 straight. And by the way, they broke that 6-game losing streak and just finally won their first Big Ten game this past weekend over Michigan State. And it's mid-November. If I would have told you in the summer Penn State would not win a Big Ten game until mid-November, what would you have said? You probably thought we were all crazy, right? Although we did see some signs of life out of Penn State in the Ohio State game. It was a 3-point game at the half. They gave Indiana all they could handle. The next week, coming alive, and then they go into Michigan State and get the win. So we'll see. By the way, if they win Saturday and next week at Rutgers, guess who's bowl eligible? Penn State. I know. Can you believe it? Illinois is at Wisconsin. That's a 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific game on the Big Ten Network. If Illinois beats Wisconsin and wins their season finale against Northwestern and then wins a bowl game, that's back-to-back 10-win seasons for the first time in school history. Brett Bielema would certainly etch his place in Illini history, and that achievement would have been hard to believe back in September when they lost 63-10 to Indiana, that they still could be a 10-win team. Yeah, but this is a good football team. Also, don't forget, Bielema is a former Badger coach. I'm sure he still wants to beat them. Meanwhile, Badgers current coach, Luke Fickell, he has struggled mightily this year. He's been shut out twice, both at home. He's on his fourth starting quarterback this season, Carter Smith, who got a start last week. He's a former Michigan commit, and in his game and a half, I think he's shown some promise. Stats weren't great, but there's some eyeball tests there. I think he looks all right. So we'll see if he's the guy next year, or if, look, here's a point to think about. Instead of firing Fickell, they said we're going to spend more money on the football program. That probably means they're going to go out and get themselves a really expensive quarterback, probably. And then Washington is at UCLA, 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific on NBC. This is another old Pac-12 rematch. Running back Jonah Coleman and wide receiver Denzel Boston, they've been injured, and the team has relied on young, promising backups all along. And then Damon Williams Jr., their quarterback, has had to carry a bigger load here. In three road games outside the state of Washington, the Huskies have yet to score more than 24 points. It's kind of weird. At home, they can put up a lot of points, but they go outside on the road. They struggle to be explosive. Meanwhile, UCLA interim coach Tim Skipper says quarterback Nico Iamaleava is still day-to-day up to today, still working through the concussion protocol. Did not play last week against Ohio State, suffered symptoms after their loss the prior week against Nebraska. Sidebar, just a story. Washington coach Jed Fish, former offensive coordinator and interim head coach at UCLA. His name occasionally pops up regarding the UCLA job. Of course, they fired Deshaun Foster early in the season. We'll see. Fish says he's pretty happy there at Washington. Before we get into our Pigskin Picks, real quick, Friday night, tonight, basketball, 23rd ranked Wisconsin versus number 9 BYU in the Bad Boy Mowers series at Salt Lake City. 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific on Peacock. That's an early game today. Virginia's at Northwestern, Detroit Mercy at number 17 Michigan State, Central Connecticut taking on Rutgers tonight, and Presbyterian taking on number 19 UCLA, 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific on the Big Ten Network. All right, it is time. Coming up in a minute, we are going to go on the record with our bold, fearless Pigskin Picks for the Big Ten football slate this weekend. That's coming up in a minute here on Locked On Big Ten. The NBA is in full swing now. There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game, or you got a hot hand or a hunch late, no problem. FanDuel has live bets. You can jump right in. You can predict who's going to score next, fourth quarter comebacks, all of that. Plus, you can even combine your live bets with same-game parlays for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps everything very exciting. I always tell you, Miami Heat overs. That's my thing. That's my jam this year, it seems like. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So go head to FanDuel.com and sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten. All right, let's do this. Let's go on the record with our Pigskin Picks. If you're on audio, Spotify, or Apple, don't worry about it. We're just going to put them on a screen here with the point spreads and the point totals, and we'll go through these games here today. We do this each and every Friday. So Rutgers at number 1, Ohio State. Here's it's minus 31.5 for Ohio State, and the number is 54.5. Look, I don't think Ohio State's going to cover the 31.5. They're going to win. I can even see them winning by 4 touchdowns. But 4 touchdowns is not 31.5. So give me the points for Rutgers, even though Ohio State wins. And I do like this game to climb over the number 54.5. If Rutgers has had pretty good offense this year, although, like I mentioned earlier, a good defense like Oregon really stuffed them up, slowed them down. And we all know Ohio State has a really good offense, or defense rather. Offense isn't bad either. Let's wait and see what happens with Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith before we go thinking they may cover. I don't think they are going to cover the 31.5. Minnesota is at Northwestern. Northwestern, a 3.5-point favorite. The number is 40.5. Is that Wrigley? Like I just said, Northwestern really went toe-to-toe with Michigan, and Minnesota wins middle tier games or middle tier opponents in one-score games. I like Northwestern right now. This is a team that absolutely wants to be bowl eligible. They're going to give it a go against Minnesota, and I think they barely cover that 3.5. The number is really low. 40.5. I mean, does anybody here think this is going to be like 21-19 or anything like that? I think there'll be a little bit more scoring. So I like the over in this game, 40.5. Meanwhile, Michigan State is at Iowa, formerly 21st ranked Iowa, not ranked anymore. 16.5 points. And the number's 42.5. I like Iowa to crush it this weekend. I keep making the case. It's a good football team. They're going to cover the 16.5. They're going to wave to all the kids at the hospital there behind the stadium. They're going to be happy. It's going to be a great atmosphere for the last home game. And I think they get way over this number, 42.5. Take the over on that one. Most of the scoring will be done by Iowa. In the meantime, we've got USC and Oregon. You got a typo on my part. Number 15, USC versus number 7, Oregon. Oregon, a 9.5-point favorite. The number 59.5. I like both teams to really start taking off in the second half. I think a defensive-minded battle more so in the first half. Second half, then the offenses do what they do. I think it goes above the number. I can see this game getting in the 30s, really. And if that's the case, I actually think Oregon will cover the 9.5 in this one. Close in the first half, pull away in the second half. That's how I see this one go. The home field advantage, I think, will be too much. USC on the road is a lot different. Number 15, Michigan at Maryland. Again, apologize for the typo. 13.5. Michigan's not covering the 13.5. This game is much closer, and I believe both teams will put some points on the board against each other. So over 45.5, but Michigan does not cover the 13.5. And Nebraska at Penn State. I think Penn State's ready to bust out. I actually feel bad for Nebraska at this point. Penn State, like I said, playing a lot better against Ohio State and Indiana, and then they win against Michigan State. They're at home here. I think they're going to blow out Nebraska in this game. No Dylan Raiola, and I also think we get above the 44.5. We'll close it out with Illinois at Wisconsin. Illinois is a 7.5-point favorite. I do see Illinois winning this game by double figures. Again, Wisconsin still has trouble scoring, and that's why I like the under in this game, 40.5. Illinois will do the majority of the scoring here, but we won't get north of 40.5. And then Washington and UCLA. Washington is a 10.5-point favorite. I actually like Washington to win this one by a couple of touchdowns. I think there's points on both sides, and this number goes past the 51.5. So there you have it. How we do? Our Pigskin Picks. Bold and fearless and no wavering. We are on the record. Hey, stay tuned here. We're here every day with all the latest on all 18 Big Ten teams, news, analysis, opinion of that news. We don't shy away from that. And, of course, you can interact with us on Twitter at TalkBig10, our website, TalkBig10, 10.com, where all of our podcasts go. Check out a second listen of yesterday's podcast after this one. That would be appreciated. And you can hit the school logos on the website, and boom, it takes you to a shopping site where you can get shirts with your school logo, pennants, hats, all that. Christmas is coming. You got to be ready, whether it's for you or somebody else. So before you go, if you could hit that free subscribe button, that way you never miss a single Locked On Big Ten podcast. And don't forget, we will go live after the USC Oregon game right here for your immediate live comments. My raw reaction will be about 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, right here after that game. And I think winner gets to the playoffs, losers out. That's what I think. All right, so we'll see you there for that. In the meantime, one other note, you college football fans out there, Locked On and Fire TV present the College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation along with two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson and Jesse Holley, and then Locked On's experts all come together, and you're ready to go for the weekend. A college football preview that only Locked On can do. Catch the college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. That'll do it for us. Can't wait to see you live after the USC Oregon game. And of course, we'll be back Monday with our regular daily slate of all things Big Ten here on Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Shemon. We'll see you then.